Same old trouble, villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome to the Season 7 finale of Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri, and with me, as always, is the not Alan Tudyk.
I see how it is.
It's Bear.
Look, I come on strong. I radiate power. I can't help that. And with us, as always, the lovely and talented, our deputy... No, crap, now I can't remember the deputy's name.
I can't either.
That's fine. She's good.
Liv Baker.
She's the amazing one. It is the Baroness, Ms. Jennifer Howland.
Thank you very much. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our guests. As usual, today we have with us a new guest, Megan, and a returning guest, Roger.
Hello.
The McCreadys.
We're very happy to have you with us today.
It's a
Thanks for
pleasure to
joining.
be here.
Yes, Roger, coming back after your smashing success on the Green Lantern episode.
Thank you.
Where you easily could have filled up 3 times the space.
Oh, yeah.
That we did. And Megan, welcome. First time
Thank
for this wonderful finale where we will be doing Resident Alien. But before we get into that, Megan, why don't you give us a little history of you and comic books?
Well, I got into comic books a long time ago in high school. I had a very brief love affair with comic books in high school. I didn't really know where to go.
And nobody helped her.
And nobody helped me. And
Because dudes be toxic when it comes to comics sometimes.
then I met Roger, who was very into comics.
Mm-hmm.
And we dated, and I borrowed his comics. And I got really, really into a lot of the DC stories. And then I discovered all sorts of independent stuff. And I really fell in love with stuff like Lock and Key.
And
Yes.
Dark Tower.
And the Dark Tower comics.
I will say the Dark Tower comics, I think, better than the books.
I can't argue that, except for Wizard and Glass. That's still going to be my favorite.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I stopped at Blame the Train. I couldn't anymore with Blame the but the comics are wonderful. But yes, child of the 90s. So
Yes.
you are coming up at the pinnacle of some of the greatest independent and otherwise comics.
I did. I got really into Sandman. I mean,
Great.
surprise, surprise.
Who didn't?
Right.
Me, I
Yes.
didn't.
Yes, Bear. Bear is the answer.
Bear is the answer to that question.
Tune in next season when we do Sandman.
There, he's fun.
Yay.
I dated a guy who loaned me my first X-Men comics, and it was Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past.
We
And
still have those.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
we broke up, and I kept them.
Yeah.
We have a running joke on this show about Dark Phoenix because Bear and Jenn were not comic book people.
At the time those came out.
Well, in the 70s, I was not born when those came out.
I mean, I was alive in the 70s.
You shut your whore mouth.
But going back and watching or reading 70s comics now is a lot different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of thought bubbles, lots of word bubbles that are just explaining what the thought bubbles said.
Look, people were on a lot of drugs in the 70s.
So, what are
Speedy
your
was on drugs.
what are your favorites
Other
other than Lock and Key?
than Lock and Key, I really liked. I mean, obviously, I'm married to Mr. Green Lantern.
Mhm.
Super fan. So I really like the Kyle Rayner stories. Like, much to my husband sometimes being judgy.
You like the Frank Miller run on Daredevil.
I did. I like the
Oh,
Frank
Born
Miller
Again?
one.
Yeah.
That one's a good
Yeah.
one.
Dark Knight
52
52.
was really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, today we are going to be doing Resident Alien, which I didn't even know was a comic. I don't know that any of us did before it was a TV series with Mr. Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
A Dark Horse comic, of which we have only done like a handful of Dark Horse comics.
And really not that old. It only came out in, 2011, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep. Yeah, just kind of Peter Hogan, which again, not a writer that I'm familiar with.
Mm-mm.
Even Steve Parkhouse, who does the art, was not familiar with him at all.
But Alan Moore loved it.
Alan Moore, in fact, right on the inside cover says
Right on the front cover.
Yeah, says
Yeah.
that it is one of his favorite books, which is pretty amazing.
I could see that though. I can
Now-
see Alan Moore liking it.
Yeah. The other part of this that's pretty neat is that this duo did The Dreaming, which was the spin-off from Sandman.
Yes.
So I definitely want to go back and catch up on The Dreaming if this was a product of these two people, because this is a great comic.
Yeah.
I can see how it really developed into the story. On our show, we generally try to keep like a little bit of spoilers off for the comic, because we want people to go and read it. But we are full on for the first season. We talk about anything, we assume that anyone listening to this has watched the whole season. So we're going to start with the comic a little bit. Megan and Roger, was this your first time reading this?
Yes,
Yes,
it was.
It was the
Yeah.
first time we read this.
I didn't
What did you
even
think?
realize.
What did I think? I thought so we watched the first season of the show prior to this. Then when we were going to do this, we watched the rest of all the episodes that are available on the second season while we were reading the comic. So it was I liked the art style for the comic. I liked the because it was just a very like well detailed, like, hey, these are real people with real shapes, and that was kind of cool. It wasn't, nothing was idyllic or superhero-esque. And then on top of that, it was a very interesting style, the way they kind of portrayed how Harry is like leaning and people are not noticing stuff about him. It's like when they first started off, you're like, is he just like, does he just look like that and nobody's noticing at all? And it was kind of
Yeah. Whereas
Yeah.
the show took more of a bent for showing Alan Tudyk as Alan Tudyk and then occasionally the alien form. Like,
Yeah.
there is no human form in this comic. It's
No.
just
No.
the alien the whole time, which is great.
Mhm.
It's very kind of fish out of water in
right.
that
And
way.
I think Sci-Fi went, that's too much for our budget to have him be an alien all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I think they
I'm
also
sure
wanted
Alan
Alan
Tudyk,
Tudyk's
yeah.
facial expressions and stuff too. Like,
You can't put an actor like that on the screen and not show
Take
what.
advantage.
Yeah, not take
Right.
advantage of
Yeah.
his physical comedy.
He's the
Yes.
anti-Jared Leto.
Yeah.
I gotta. Good.
I think that there's a little bit of both, probably more of the FX budget, more of the FX budget, and less of, Alan Tudyk being such a great physical actor, but it sure helps.
Well,
Mhm.
and there's also time in the makeup chair for the alien
Yeah.
stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because that's not all CG. That's
No,
got to be at
there's
least a little
physical,
bit
yeah.
practical.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
There's definitely practical effects that he does. Like, you see him especially when he's talking to Max at different times. That's definitely Alan's face with makeup on.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
and like the way he talks when it's on, it's like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I like the way that it's just a little different, but it's obviously just because we had to glue all this crap on his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Roger, that's how you felt. Megan, what did you think of the comic?
I like the comic. It took me a little while to get used to the differences between the comic and the show.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think there were going to be as many stark differences. But I actually, like, the more I got into it and the more I read, the more I really appreciated the differences. Not just as this is the prototype versus, this is one medium versus another medium or whatever. This is the first iteration versus what a bunch of money thrown at a screen, production can do. But I also really liked it just on the sense that, like, I really loved having Harry be presented in his alien form throughout the show or throughout the comic. I think that it was like a really good way to kind of point out his otherness throughout the entire storyline and stuff, that I think they kind of swapped it for on the show for the physical emoting and everything that Alan Tudyk can do in order to convey this to convey the same thing. But I really appreciated the stylistic way that they did that in the comic, and how you could never escape the fact that this guy was actually an alien as the reader.
That's one of the things that I noticed in the comic. Like, this alien has a PhD in humanity before he even comes to the planet, whereas in the show they have Alan Tudyk as a human, but he's very doesn't understand a lot of cultural things. And so they made his otherness something that was acted out instead of something just physical, which I like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is a choice you make when you have somebody like Alan Tudyk.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and I loved that he learned like social cues from Law and Order.
Yes.
Well, which is taken straight from the comic.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very minor spoilers, but Harry in the comic even is a fan of detective and murder mystery shows, which is great, because it does actually, in the comic, it does more than the TV show did, because he's almost like a murder podcast
true crime
junkie, and that's what brings him into a lot of these things. It's not necessarily situations that push him, it's that he is curious, which I really liked. Bear, thoughts on the comic?
This is actually one of those rare instances where I wish I would have read the comic first, because I thought it was a great baseline. I thought it was a good comic. I didn't think it was an amazing comic, but I thought it was a really good, solid comic. And after watching the series, I was just like, this is just the comic, but better in practically every way. And I had to go back and double check. The first 2 series writing credits come straight from the writers of the comic book. They're the number one. So basically they did the rewrite for the show.
That's cool.
So it's not like somebody just got the rights to their work and just ran with it and did something new and better. They did something new and better. And I'm down for every minute of what they did. I think everything about the series, though the comic book was good, I think everything about the series was great and better in practically every way than the comic book. I think they took their original work, gave it the next revision, and just, put it to the screen and made everything.
Jenn?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, Bear. Thank you for that bit of research that you did, because that does make the show, for me, that much better. To know that it was the original creators.
To actually take it to the next level.
Right, yeah. And the comic, I love the art, and I didn't realize that it was the same duo that did the Dreaming. Which I think I'm going to go back and look at some things.
Which might as well just be called The Adventures of Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the same boat, but I have a difference. Over the course of this show, there are situations, and this is one of the most prominent, I think, where I've been able to separate the comic from the show, and I really like them for different reasons. The comic is a baseline, it's what you have for a graphic novel, but there are some choices I feel work better for the comic. They don't include the kid at all, and it's Astra actually that is the 1 in a million people that can see through, but she can't see through the disguise. It's just that his face looks blurry to her, which is great because it's almost like I have face blindness, but only for one person, which the way that it's described is just super, super cool. And they never put it to panel. It's only described as a person on person interaction, which I really dug it. I liked the simplicity of it. I like they concentrate a lot more on small town life in the comic, which is different than the show, which like has like an overarching plot, and there's a little bit of how it's a small town, but the size of the town.
Every time you walk into the bar, you remember it. In the TV series, anytime they shoot a scene in the bar, you're like, "This is a small town."
Yeah.
I lived in that small town.
Well, okay.
Yes and no, though, because
Yes,
it's almost like the bar from Midnight Texas.
Well, but it's also, you also, like, I felt like I was watching, an offshoot of Gilmore Girls anytime there was anything with the mayor and his wife.
Yes. Yeah.
I just feel like every time they walked into that bar, like I lived in a small town or near a small town that had that bar where
what
you walk
was the
in and be
number
like,
for the miners?
The 59.
The 59.
Yeah. But it was more like, there was the two town drunks. One of them was the woman who was, always there at the bar. There was always like half a dozen regulars that were just chilling over in the corner whose names you didn't know.
Right.
And we're never introduced
and we're
to the
never
series.
going to get to know.
Yep, we're never going to get to them, but they always put the same actors in the same spots.
Right.
Also, that bar, for a small town, that bar seems...
It's kind of a hip bar for a small town.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how people...
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. In some small towns, there's only one bar, and so the bar gets a lot of business, and they get some better stuff.
Well, if it's in the Midwest, it's because you can only have as many bars as you have churches.
I didn't know that. I grew up on the East Coast. I didn't know that was a rule.
Not wrong.
You have to have at least one more bar than you have churches.
Well, it's not...
No, it used to be liquor licenses were distributed in these towns in the Midwest. Only in as many liquor licenses as there were churches.
Well, maybe that was an Iowa thing, but not in South Dakota.
There are mountains. It is not the Midwest.
Right.
Oh, my God. So, moving from the comic, because we do want to keep the suspense for the comic, there are some great choices. It's really fun. I'll give my answer that I'm going to ask at the end of the episode, but I am definitely picking up Graphics 2 on. I just really enjoyed it. It was fun. But getting to the show, and just out of the gate, is there anyone that could do this show other than Alan Tudyk?
No.
I don't know if I'd want anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you went back like 10, 15 years, maybe ish, you might get Jim Carrey to do it.
No.
Maybe.
No.
It's too.
Jim,
that's too much.
This is going to sound like a stretch, but Jim Parsons.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I've seen some of his stuff, like where he's not Sheldon. He does some really good facial emoting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, Josh, I figured you'd have said Patton Oswalt for them.
Patton, I have the same problem that I have with Jim Carrey, and that is Patton Oswalt. One of the other ones that I would bring up in the same, Robin Williams, if you got him early enough, those kind of things. It's too
animated.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can Robin Williams play an alien? I'm not sure.
Right. No, it's that they're too much. Alan Tudyk skirts this line between too much and reserved in this role that so many actors I don't think could, and Patton I don't think can. I think Patton gets too excited.
He plays it so straight.
Yeah, right.
Well, Patton would be like he's too pleased with him how clever he is.
Right.
And that does not work because Alan Tudyk was able to be the butt of the joke.
Right. Well, and sincere.
Yeah.
He's sincere while also putting on a facade.
Yeah.
It's because you don't just have, obviously the physical acting is what we're concentrating on, but you have a lot of voiceover work in this that is where your sincerity comes from. I think that part Patton Oswalt would be fantastic at, but the actual physicality, I think his actions would be too much.
Right. Too big.
Sure.
For some reason, like Alan Tudyk's are subtle. Big while reserved.
Yeah, he's subtle.
Yes, he's subtle, but at the same point, like he does just a hair over what you would expect to give you that. Oh no! Like how is no one in this town picking up how weird this dude is? But like if it were a Patton Oswalt, a Jim Carrey, a Robin Williams, people would be like, that is an alien.
I think it's the seriousness that he brings to the portrayal. Like, he's playing an alien who's serious about trying to pretend to be a human.
Right.
Which is a lot. And if you make it too silly, it loses the humor in it.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. So first impressions going through the series for the first time. This came out of nowhere for me. I just kind of was like, oh, it's an Alan Tudyk, and we started watching it, and then we were halfway through the season before I suddenly looked at Jenn and went, it's a comic!
And I was like, no.
So, how did you all come to this? Like, was it recommended, or did you just, like I did, run across it one day and you're like, well, it's Alan Tudyk, I'll give it a shot?
I think we watch sci-fi pretty regularly, and I think we saw an ad and we're like, oh, well, we should definitely watch that.
Alan Tudyk has a show?
Alan Tudyk has a TV show. We should watch it. And then I there's I think that's what happened. I'm pretty sure. But that was like when season 1 came out. We didn't catch up. We were watching it when it started. We had to catch up on the second season because life happens, and you're like, oh my god, I've missed like a season of every TV show I like because I've been too busy taking care of everything.
We're that way with second season right now. I think we watched the first 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And then
well,
we're
then
like,
we'll make sure not to spoil it for you.
Yes. Yeah. We're just doing season 1 in this show.
Okay.
But yeah, Bear, I know we drug you into this show.
I had no idea what the heck was going on, and then you were just like, "We're putting this on the roster," and I'm just like, "What? Is this like a Superman thing? Is this?"
And then Jenn and I voted it high on our.
I was just like, "All right, well, I don't know if I trust you, but I'll trust Jenn."
Fair, totally fair.
Yikes.
Yeah, while we were watching it, I was just like, it's Alan Tudyk. And then after we got done with the first episode, I was pretty blown away.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, you have given Alan Tudyk a show in which he can finally showcase how amazing he is.
Well, and then it had like
where we can curse his sudden but inevitable betrayal.
I mean, the first episode, the pilot was like, I'm like, is this going to be like a wacky, like Northern Exposure police procedural show? Like, what is this?
The answer is yes.
The answer is kind of.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to say that that's the case.
Patience, Colorado is a place I would love to go see.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, come for the weeds, stay for the weird, wacky plot.
So, moving on.
Stay for the entertaining is Helltown Drunk.
Yes.
Moving on past Alan Tudyk, the other thing that I want to talk about is I am really excited about this cast and seeing them pass this show. Because this is a relatively unknown ensemble of people.
Yeah.
And a really diverse cast. If you look at the comic, it was mostly
people.
white.
Except for the Native American people.
Yes.
Which
they kept and was perfect. But that's like straight up where I had to steal that intro line after you introduced me, because I loved that cop from the second that he was standing there and he's just like, look, I know I come on strong. I radiate power. I can't help that. And I was just like, lost my shit right there. Laugh out loud. And I'm just like, I'm in. I'm totally in.
Folks call me Black Bart.
Right?
Nobody calls
Big
me
Black.
Black Bart.
Right.
Big Black. That's right.
Big Black.
But yeah, changing to a more diverse cast and then leaning into that. So not only do you make the sheriff black, he is the only African American person
in the
entire town. And that's amazing because he's way overcompensating.
Yeah.
I love his character.
Yeah.
No, he's fantastic.
And then you have the super nerdy female deputy that
Liv Baker,
the actual brains of
Liv
the
Baker.
operation.
Yep.
You know what I really liked? I just looked up his name, so I was trying to remember, because when I saw him in the show, I was like, holy crap, it's the dude from Ghost Dog. and
Is
it's
it Gary Farmer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Gary
I
Farmer.
like Gary Farmer.
If you need an Native American actor, he's like one of the 3 that is in everything.
Yep.
So good. Now I'm trying to remember if he was the one from Ernest.
He was in Smoke Signals. I don't know if he was in
Smoke Signals was so good.
I don't think he was in.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
He's in Res Dogs. I haven't seen that yet, but
Yeah, that's on my list to check out.
He was also in the episode. He was in the episode of The West Wing where
Yes, he
they were
was.
dealing with the Native Americans, and they just hung out there in the lobby with the Christmas trees. Like, no, we came here for an appointment. And we're going to sit here until we get our appointment.
Yep.
Oh my god, looking through his IMDb is
Yeah.
great. He was in Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.
Yeah,
that's right.
And he was in 23 episodes of Forever Night.
Oh,
Yep.
my God.
Hell yeah.
Oh my God.
And he was
I
in The
forgot
Big
about that
Empty, one of
show.
my favorite weird movies.
Yep.
Yeah, he was an interesting but those are like the people. Those are the people that I thought were like, oh, these are the people I actually recognized. And then the guy who plays the sheriff,
Corey Reynolds. Yeah.
Corey Reynolds. The character's supposed to be from DC. The actor's from Richmond, but being a kid who grew up outside of DC, I was actually really impressed with his the way he decided to talk. And I was like, oh, that's authentic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a really good job of giving him the right idioms and some of the diction. He also still sounds like a Virginian, but there are certain parts where he's just like, oh, that's a DC thing. That is a DC attitude thing. He did it right.
Yeah, and Sarah Tomko, who is Asta. Yeah. The only really other credit that I recognized her from is she was Tiger Lily in Once Upon a Time, when they finally got to the whole Peter Pan universe.
That was a long time ago.
That's right, I do remember.
That was a long time
and that was
ago.
bothering me for a long time. I'm like, I know her from somewhere.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then Levi Feichler, who is the mayor, has been in a bunch of stuff, but not any like breakaway roles. And that's what I'm saying is like all of these actors I feel are just bringing an A game to this show. We just to refresh ourselves watched the finale right before this, and the scene where the mayor and his wife like beat down he and Kate beat down the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Air quotes Men in Black.
And then like start making out right afterwards in front of the police and everything. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh
man.
God, I was dying.
Josh
They
is all
sold
like,
it. They fucking sold it.
Right?
They work so well together. The whole cast plays off of each other so well.
Yes, absolutely.
I just remember you're sitting there just like, yep, we what was the line you said after that when they were out the door? They're just like they gon' get.
Oh yeah, a family that kills that murders together, fucks together.
Yeah.
Yikes.
To which I followed up with making lives and taking lives.
God.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you beat somebody down with your goddamn like stand up like lamp, like
right?
your corner lamp post.
So Roger, to go with your love of Deputy Liv, she was only supposed to be a small recurring character, but she had such a great rapport with Corey Reynolds, who played the sheriff, that they expanded her role past the pilot.
I'd love to hear that.
Good for her, because I mean, honestly, she's one of my favorite characters in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of Corey, I'm just going to the D because some of this is just fucking gold. Corey Reynolds in an interview said that he was trying to create an African-American character that's never been seen on television, and his inspiration was to create a cross between John Wayne and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
success, sir. Success.
He's not far off.
Right?
He's not far off.
That's fantastic. I love him. I love that character. I love that concept. That's a great way to go about it.
Right? Oh my god. Like, he also, Corey Reynolds also suggested to the creator that his character should have a quirk like beatboxing, and while he was demonstrating it, as Amazing Grace, Elizabeth Bowen just walked up and joined him. And so,
Wow.
and then Chris Sheridan, the creator of the show, went, "That's going in the show," which it did.
Yeah, it did.
But like, just that was just an example of their chemistry, that he
Oh
was
my
just
God.
doing something and pitching it to the showrunner, and she just walked up and joined seamlessly.
That was ad-libbed?
Yes,
Wow.
right?
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, just a really fun, cool show. One that I don't know, I haven't run into many that's like this, like just fun. I've been
Yeah.
rewatching Supernatural. It's probably the closest that I have to just something that I'll pop
Yeah.
on because it's just ridiculous fun. But other thoughts on Resident Alien?
I'm really glad we found it. It, like you said, it's very different from a lot of shows that have been out. Not just because of Alan Tudyk and his physical comedy or anything. It's just they do a really good job running parallel serious plot with a very quirky kind of humor that just works so well with the cast they have. And it's such a refreshing show to watch. And I we don't get to watch a lot of shows anymore. Like, just our schedules have gotten really crazy now that we've got a middle schooler. But, you know, this is one of the shows we always make time for because it's just it's so good to sit down and watch it. It's just it's its own kind of brand of art.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there is something to be said for a show that on one hand isn't like high energy, like you don't have to devote a ton of attention or brain power to it, but at the same time it does challenge you a little bit. There's enough stuff going on that you're not just like buried in your phone the entire episode.
Yeah, and it's stuff that makes you think. You know, it keeps you thinking after the episode ends. You know, there are ongoing story arcs and stuff that are just, you know, they make the gears turn, and they make you think about, you know, what's going to happen next, and how is that character going to be affected by it.
Yeah.
And then you're also laughing yourself, you know, laughing like crazy at all of the weird awkwardness and facial tics and
Right.
everything that
Alan
Harry
Tudyk
does.
Alan Tudyk as an alien, you know, like freaking the crap out of a little kid just because he figured out that he can see him, actually.
Right.
By the way, can we talk about Sahar and how amazing she is?
Oh my
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
she is my favorite character. I adore Sahar.
You can't tell them all the good things about Sahar because Sahar has an even stronger presence in season 2.
But
Oh,
she's
wow.
just such a no-nonsense, like, amazing, like, mini adult.
Yes, she's.
I feel like she's going to be the next Black Widow because, you know, she's already like duct taping cell phones to the underside of cars after she pretends to get run over.
Right?
Which is awesome because she's so like making her a comic book nerd was so amazing.
Right?
Especially since like they beat the shit out of 2 people and she's like, "You guys are like Daredevil and Black Widow," which is such a callback comic book. Like, Daredevil and Black Widow haven't really been linked since the 80s.
Yeah.
So she's been around she's been reading them for a while.
Right.
See, in Secret War though.
Oh my god. You nerd.
Well, actually.
Secret War was pretty fun.
Actually.
Actually, Josh.
But yes, the actress's name is Gracelyn Awad Rinke. And I also knew her because she did a lot of flashback scenes in Legends of Tomorrow, which is one of I love that fucking show. But there's a character named Zari, and she always played her younger self.
I really enjoyed Legends of Tomorrow, so
I did too. I got into it because that's where Constantine went, so I had to go and do the backlog, it was worth it.
Bad. It's good.
It is bad good. It is pretty much, and excuse me, I'm not trying to start a fight, but it's kind of how I see DC. It's bad good.
Oh, wow. Wow. All right.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Although we'll see what the James Gunn era does for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what hope feels like?
Yes.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you ruining the things I love. But
You're not ruining them. DC and Warner Brothers are ruining them.
hey,
We're
they
not
just
ruining them. We're just walking all over them.
the head of DC Film just left. We'll see what happens.
I know James Gunn is the replacement.
I'm just trying to,
then this could be great.
Yeah,
they just did the interview with The Rock after Black Adam came out, and he was just like, "This is the new beginning of the DCU," and I'm just like, "Oh, so all that stuff that we just had to sit through."
Yeah, actually, that's coming up in a second. Hold that thought.
But
you
mean I didn't have to sit through the Snyder Cut?
No, you did.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it.
We did talk about it.
We had to see it.
Yes.
It had to
we did not need to see it in black and white, though.
Yeah,
and I still kind of want to.
We did not watch it in black and white.
I already watched it a couple of times. I didn't need to see it a third time.
So, Megan and Roger, will you be continuing to read this comic?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm not moving on. You go.
Okay, fine. I was just gonna say that, like,
I just feel like that whole thing was just an Iowa Nice 4-way intersection where y'all just kept waving each other.
Roger's an honorary Midwesterner.
But I was gonna say, I actually want to read more of it to see how it diverges, how they're different, and enjoy them because they each kind of have their own flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yep. That's where I am too. I want to keep watching the show, but I also want to keep reading the comic because they are both great in different ways.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see how because the first comic book is very demonstrably different from the show. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested to see how that develops and how the differences, like the original storylines, progress versus what we're getting on the show.
Agreed. Bear?
I really enjoyed the comic, and like I said, this is one where I would have rather have actually read the comic book first because I feel like the TV show is just an evolution of the comic book. That being said, I think it'd be really hard for me to go back and continue reading the comic book having all of this great TV series that I know is just literally just, like I said, the revision by the authors.
Well, you're the media guy, so
yeah, I'm just like,
and so you are interested in continuing the show.
I'm absolutely interested in continuing the show. I would probably be interested in continuing the comic, but it's going to be one of those things where it's just like, maybe when the show's done, like then I'll go back and read the comic.
And just because I know you don't have it, is it worth the $6 a month for Peacock for you to catch up?
It might be, at least for a month, just
you're home one night. You're like, I really want to watch Resident Alien. It's $6. Whatever.
Listen, I've paid more for worse.
I know.
Take a look at my Voodoo account.
We've seen things killing. I know. Jen?
I enjoyed the comic. I'm not sure that I would seek it out. It's good.
It'll be on our shared drive. So.
Right. But I am definitely looking forward to checking out more of the show. That said, I did enjoy the comic.
Yeah, it was a good, solid comic.
Yeah. So definitely not putting that media aspect down, but I do love, so I will be watching.
But that's just a man, much like Brendan Fraser, just needs to get more roles.
Yeah. And if people have not seen it, we discussed this on the Peacemaker episode.
Oh, I was going to say Doom Patrol because then you get both Brendan Fraser and Alan Tudyk.
But if you do not know and you did not listen to our Peacemaker episode, Alan Tudyk's wife is the choreographer that made that fantastic opening sequence for Peacemaker. And John Cena was not available the first day of practice. And so there is video of Alan Tudyk showing everyone the dance.
Right, she made him do the dance.
Because during the pandemic, he was the person that she used to just see how it would look physically. A non-dancer doing it. which is amazing.
Because when I
But
need
yes.
to stand in for John Cena, I choose Alan Tudyk.
That's right. Yeah, those body types are totally similar.
So much.
So, Megan and Roger, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna have you stick around. Feel free to make comments because we have a little bit of end of season paperwork to take care of. I have some numbers that I've compiled.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Uh-oh.
that Bear and Jen do not know about.
Uh-oh.
Do I need a fresh beer for this?
Probably you can pass me a fresh beer for this.
Oh, they're in the
I'll tell you
fridge.
what,
Yeah.
right? You just take that
Oh,
one right
yeah,
there.
right
I
there.
actually
Thank
still
you
have
so
most
much.
of the beer left.
Ooh, Staghorn.
Ooh, yeah.
Lovely, New Glarus.
Lovely Wisconsin Oktoberfest.
That's right.
Jealous.
So, we have done. This is our 86th episode.
Wow.
We have been at this 3 years and 2 months.
Holy cow.
And if you were to
3
take,
years and 2 months,
if you were to take all of our episodes except for this one, because I obviously don't know how long it's going to last, and listen to them all, it would take you 80 hours and 56 minutes.
whew, that's a paycheck, boys.
Wow.
We our highest downloaded episode was Justice League, which
Nice.
Roger was on.
Nice.
Our second is Avengers,
Ooh.
which is our
That was
first
our
episode, which
yeah.
really, really makes me want to re-record our first episode.
Right? We should go back and do some revisits. We've completed the Star Trek
Right?
grouping, so I think we could go back and do some revisits
That's right.
at this point.
Number 3 is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Go, Ash.
I attribute all of that to Ash.
Number 4, somehow, is Warrior Nun.
Because that show was fucking ridiculous. Oh my
And
god.
didn't get a second season for some reason.
Oh my
Of
god.
all the things that we watched that deserved a second, and all the things that we watched that only got a season, like that was something that deserved better than it got.
And number 5, and I'm telling you, we get big spikes every September, is our V for Vendetta episode.
That was
Of
a
course.
rough though.
Yeah.
Serious.
That was Harnwell, if I remember
yes.
correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was a really great episode.
To date today, we have had 7,684 downloads.
Nice.
And obviously the United States is our number 1 demographic, but I have the next 5.
Oh, this
So,
is going to be entertaining.
Who wants to start guessing?
Australia.
Australia's on the list at number 5. Ding! You got
Canada.
the family. Canada is number 2.
Come on, Green Lantern.
Germany.
Oa.
Germany's number 3.
Okay, wow.
So we have 1 and 4 left.
This is Family Feud.
Brazil.
I know
Brazil
you
is
had mentioned
not
this
in
once
the
before.
top 5.
You mentioned this once before. There is somewhere in Eastern Europe, and I want to say, I don't think it was you. Was it the Ukraine or was it somewhere else?
We do have some downloads from the Ukraine as recently as this week. Actually,
Wow.
yeah,
which is
it was
great.
weird.
And support for the Ukraine,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stick
go,
all
go,
the
go yellow and
sunflower.
blue. Yep.
Yep, stick all the sunflower seeds in all the pockets.
Right. No, just stick them up the Russian asses.
So number 1 is the UK,
Really.
and number 4 is Greece.
Ah.
We are big with the Greeks.
All right.
I
I'm
do
not
have,
gonna.
I
I'm
do
not
have
gonna.
friends that live there.
Put Windex on it.
They didn't put Windex on things, but I do have friends that live in Greece. And I
So-
do have friends that live in the UK. I'm surprised not Ireland. Simon, you're
Not
falling
in the,
down.
not in the top 5.
Simon, Mary
Yeah.
Louise.
I'm not going to scoff at any of those, but that's it seems like a very eclectic mix.
Yeah. No, and just barely not making the top 5 is Israel, by the way.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah. So, yes, Graphically Novel has gone all over the world. And on that note, there's going to be some changes to our programming, which we warned you about at the beginning of the season. This episode will be the first week in December is when this episode will drop. We are going to be taking a sustained break, whereas we will kind of just do what we want to do moving forward.
Well, we've been kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel on our list because there's obviously a very finite list of comic books that have been made into either TV series or movies.
And we draw the fucking line at RIP.
Oh, God.
Oh my god. God.
which is getting a
Listen,
sequel.
Listen, we
Yeah.
should have drawn the fucking line at Bulletproof Monk, but no.
Bulletproof Monk was actually fun.
That was fun.
That ended
Yeah.
up being a fun episode.
Well, but
Speaking
we'll
of which,
also,
I still have your paper bag sitting at my house, and I totally forgot to bring it over.
but also I think it bears sharing that we're also going to reserve the right to do multiple episodes,
Right. So
on a
On a
particular
single property, yeah.
on a property if we feel like it needs it, you know.
right. Some of the ones that we already know that are in the hopper are I will be doing a Spider-Man
We're
episode.
going to be doing our favorites. Everybody gets their favorites.
Bear will be doing the Hulk. Jen will be doing Sandman, since that finally had a season.
And
Finally had some TV love.
yeah, well, okay, and I guess if we're gonna like maybe sort of fudge a little bit on our format, we might see some Ultraman.
Ooh.
Might see
And if
some
we're going to fudge on some format, then we might just pull in
Dune.
the Dune
Yes.
graphic that just came out
Yes.
recently.
Yeah. So you may see some things that are new. We also will not really have a designated schedule. Graphically Novel will just surprise you in random off weeks. It'll show up in your feed. So make sure that you have your favorite podcast app to just alert
Like,
you.
subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just, go to our Facebook page, because I'll still put stuff up when we're about to release. So this has been a hell of an adventure. It's been hell of a 7 seasons. And it's going to continue just in a little bit of a different form, because after next season 9 on will just be whatever the fuck we want to
Listen,
do.
the other
It's
thing,
like we're rich.
yeah, right. We can just do whatever we want now.
That's right.
So you may
the other
see some
thing that we
James
still
Bond.
have to. Oh yeah, James Bond. We've been
Yeah.
having that discussion too, because Josh fought me on that one a little. It's like, no, it was a book. No, sir. It was a comic
It
for
was.
a very short period of time before they started writing books about it.
Right. But, season 9 on, it doesn't even need to have been a comic. We can do
Yeah.
whatever we want.
We also
So-
still, at some point in time, have to have the last. And I would make the sign of the cross, but I should really just make this sign right here. We're going to make the big S sign, because
Oh,
we have
Superman.
not done Big Blue yet.
Yep. Big Blue might have to come at some point. We
Ew.
might have to do Superman.
Ew.
Superman
Phrasing. Are we not doing phrasing anymore?
is coming in
Big Blue.
Supergirl.
Ew. Gross.
I want to.
But yes, that is kind of what we look like going forward. And
Not that you can see us, but
right. A quick addendum. We actually, after this episode, had a recording over at Rec Conversations where all 4 of the Graphically Novel crew were there to give a little bit of retrospect and looking back on our scheduled shows so far. So here is that clip from Rec Conversations. So we're going to end this with a little bit of a bittersweetness for those who do not follow our Facebook pages. We are going on, we'll call it a hiatus. This show takes a lot of money, time, scheduling, and in a post-pandemic world where we're all the same as everyone, trying to catch up with the 2.5 years worth of life that we lost, we find that there just is scheduling is too much. So these shows are going to come out kind of just when we want. So there won't be another season of either Graphically Novel or Rec Conversations, but there will be when we can get together and a guest has availability. We'll go record. We might record longer episodes and then break them up. But the next time you hear a Rec Conversations will probably just be because somebody has approached us and said, I really, really want you to explain this. Or we find something that we really like and we've been telling a friend about it and they're like, I don't feel like reading it. We're like, what if we just explain it to you on a podcast? So that will, that's kind of what we're doing from now on. So please keep us in your feeds. Obviously check the Facebook page. If you don't, we'll still be posting.
if you don't, we will hunt you down if you don't check the Facebook
That's
page.
right. We will still have amusing content on there that is comic book related, as it is a fun audience that we know is there.
And we are nerds.
And we are nerds. But I have asked every host to kind of bring with them a favorite memory or a recommended favorite episode that they would recommend that people listen to. So I will go first. I will say really just the going back and listening, between how we are now and our first episode, which I went back and listened to today, all the way back in Avengers.
The first one I went back into.
Oh, Jessica Jones. Yeah, that was the first one that all three of us were on. But I feel like we've come a really long way in understanding recording and understanding how to explain things. Going to a longer style, bringing a guest. The second season was a winner. We realized just after the first season we couldn't do this without Jenn being the third, secret sauce in there, and always bringing a guest kind of adds a lot. So the recommended episode that I have happens to be the one that has most downloads. For Graphically Novel, it is Justice League. It was a painful experience to go through it, to actually have to watch both cuts and make all the notes, but I feel we had a lot of fun with it, and that really, really shines through. Rhett Conversations, for me, probably my most fun was House of X, Powers of X, which we've talked about before. It is an X-Men story. It's wildly confusing, but I had a sense of accomplishment going through that because I don't feel that I understood House of X, Powers of X before I went through and had to systematically break it down.
Right.
And then explain it. And I feel that I have put something out into the world because Hickman's House of X, Powers of X is so important right now. If you are an X-Men fan and you want to read anything that's occurring right now, you have to understand House of X, Powers of X. But it's such a difficult step to get there. So I feel like we put something out in the world that's like a primer that somebody can listen to and then go on with their lives to enjoy what's being put out now, which is very, very good X-Men content. So yeah, those are my recommendations. So I will, since this is Rec Conversations, I will move it to Leia next.
Yeah. So for Graphically Novel, of course, like anything that I guested on, I think are my favorites. I really enjoyed being able to babble about two of my most favorite characters, three actually of my most favorite characters in the world. Black Widow, Captain America, and Wanda Maximoff, respectively. And
there was a fair amount of Bucky in there too.
Yes, of course, there always is. Captain America is an inclusive title and not just Steve Rogers.
Gotcha.
There have been multiple Captain Americas. They are all wonderful. But I think those are my I really enjoyed being able to share my my joy in all those characters with you guys, and you allowing me to babble endlessly about them was a very nice experience, because I will talk anybody's ear off about those characters if given the chance, and you gave me the chance, so thank you for that.
Well, and I have you on the short list to bring you on for the She-Hulk episode, because I feel like Jennifer Walters could very quickly become one of your favorite characters as well.
I loved every moment of that show.
That show was
magnificent.
So good.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. That finale was so magnificent that I pulled a friend of the podcast, Adam Witt, into the room and made him watch the last 10 minutes of the show, despite him never seeing any of the prior episodes. I was like, you don't need to see any of the prior episodes to enjoy what's going to happen here.
That's right.
So yeah, it was really good.
That was every bit of that show was just.
Yes, it was. And then for Red Conversations, we've had so many wonderful guests, and we've done, for every plot line that we've done that was just fucking horrible, we've done some really good stories, some of my favorite stories. I think kind of, for me, I always say that the penultimate episode, I think, for me, is the 2-part episode of Civil War Part 2 featuring Mike Tomasek, because it is such a fucking journey to watch this man roll in and be like, I fucking hated the first one and I'm gonna fucking hate this one, it's gonna suck, and by the end he had to take a break so he could cry about what was going on in the story.
Yeah,
it was a beautiful experience to watch him slowly become more and more invested in the story and be like, well, wait, is Miles okay? You know, like
Yeah.
it was so pure and so good and so perfect. I think that really is kind of the best possible example I think that I can have about what this show is like about, right? Is like you're like, well, I don't know if I care about this all that much, and then you deeply care.
Much like wrestling, this show is predetermined but not scripted.
Right. Yeah, so it's really good. But I mean, we've had, like I said, we've had so many just really great guests, you know, people who've had a lot of fun. You know, Ryan Ike was a wonderful guest. We, you know,
Mhm.
Royal, obviously you've been here twice, and we can't thank you enough for that.
Oh,
You know,
so
we've
much
had
fun.
we've had so many great folks on. I can't possibly name them all, but like it was a really good experience to just sit and chat with people about comics, and that's, you know, at the end of the day, it's what I like to do.
Alan Purcell destroyed a perfectly good friendship by
He sure
making you
did.
do,
Over 20 years of friendship, just like,
by making you do Secret Empire.
mhm.
Oof.
Uh,
Oof.
He felt bad about it too. Like after he was like, "Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry."
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. But man, that's brutal. That's just brutal.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Like I was pissed off when that storyline started back in 2017, and I was like, well, maybe with the, you know, the span of time, like maybe it's not as bad as I.
or maybe they fixed it somehow.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Nope.
No.
Still, it actually was worse with a slight bit of age on it. So
Oh, especially when we started diving in deeper and finding out that there was actually an alternate cover where Magneto was in a Hydra outfit.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just terrible
Ooh.
choices all around.
That's a
Um,
bad look, is what that
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And I
So
mean, like, you know, there was also you know, Original Sin, which was a lot of fun. There was God, there's so many that were excellent. We did
Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Asylum was so good. That was so fun to do. And we had the perfect guest for that. That was the Ryan Ike episode. Mr. Miracle, one of my favorite comic book stories, I think, of easily the past decade. Was just a joy, and that was with JR.
Mhm.
Transmetropolitan. The Transmetropolitan episode was also great.
Yeah.
You know, so like just I can't, you know, it was a good experience overall.
It
And
was Mr. Jason Taylor.
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Friend of the show.
And Dawn was hilarious.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, I will point that out as a recommended episode just because
That was fantastic.
that is three women listening to me talk about a book that was important to me when I was in my late teens in the late 90s, and them going, do you see every bit of how problematic this is?
Ooh.
I'm actually currently reading Still Just a Geek by Will Wheaton, and
Oh,
it is his book Just a Geek that he wrote in 2004 that he went back to and annotated
Yeah.
to talk about how he's grown as a person, and to be like, that's homophobic, that's problematic, that's, you know, I made this girl a punchline in this story because I thought it would be funny. Like, it's really eye-opening to go in and have a writer like swallow their pride enough to be like, this is who I was then, I'm better now. That is pretty much the entirety of the Dawn episode.
Yeah. Like the things that just do not age well.
Yeah.
Especially from the 90s. What a crazy time.
Yeah, right?
Especially in comics. Like, I know that there was certainly stuff that I read when I was like a teen. I was like, this is like really deep and meaningful and moving. And I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, bitch, what?
Open Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I dare you.
Oh my
No,
God.
thanks. I would prefer to remain ignorant of what that was like.
I'm going to go to Jenn next because Barry was with me from the beginning.
Well, yeah, I have a lot of favorites, and I just want to just call out a few that were my favorites, just because the property was my favorite, and the addition of the guest just amped that goodness for me. Happy.
Happy, which we didn't have a guest for.
I have
but that was
Happy
first
in
season.
my notes
Yeah.
as a favorite memory of mine because you were so goddamn excited about
I
it.
love that. And I just want to also say, I was on another podcast to talk about Happy. I have talked about Happy on 2 different podcasts.
Happy was also the episode that we found out we should not record twice in a day while drinking.
Yes,
I
that's
thought
very
that-
true.
No, that was Legion.
Legion is next
Although,
on my
if
list.
You, yeah, and Legion is on my list too. But if you go back and listen to Legion, I don't know if you re-edited that or what, but
No.
we don't sound as bad as I know we were. Like, I was just listening to that one today too.
Keep in
and I
mind,
went
first
through-
and second season, I went through and removed
Ums,
ums,
Oh yeah,
ahs,
no, I
but I also removed us slurring our words.
Yeah.
Like editing a half-hour episode for the first couple seasons actually probably took me 3 to 4 hours per episode.
Oh yeah, I remember
which is
you
why I
talking about
stopped
it.
doing that entirely.
Yeah.
Also on my list, Atomic Blonde,
Great.
Legion I just mentioned, and Tank Girl.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there was an episode we did that has stuck with me, and I don't think it's because of, because it was my favorite or what have you, but Road to Perdition. I find myself thinking about that movie and comic a lot, and I don't know why. It's just stuck with me.
Oddly, it keeps coming up in conversations that I have recently.
Isn't
People
that
start-
weird?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Okay. But my recommendations for people who want to go back and listen, fucking V for Vendetta. I think it's one of the best episodes we've done.
Yes.
It's so good. The guest
David
was
Harnois
yeah,
episode.
amazing.
I think the first
Yeah.
time we had him on the podcast too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really
Amazing.
enjoyed listening to that. Yeah, for sure.
That was a really good
Yeah.
one.
We get, for
Um,
some reason, spikes in November if people
Yeah,
listen to
I
that
wonder
episode. I'm
why.
not sure why.
And then Lock and Key
Oh
But
yeah.
They are.
and Scott Pilgrim versus the World with my brilliant daughter, Ashley,
Yeah.
who I think we've done ourselves a disservice not having her back on the show.
I agree. Yeah. Well, also that also kind of blossomed into us looking harder at Edgar Wright as a director,
Yes.
just ourselves as a couple,
Right.
Because we just recently watched last night in Soho, and Jesus
Brilliant.
fucking
I
Christ,
still
Brilliant.
didn't see that.
There was a time in my life I was going through a particularly rough time, and for reasons I can't explain to this day, there was a period of time in my life where the only film media I watched was just Scott Pilgrim versus the World on repeat.
Mm.
I can't blame you
and-
for that. I still go back to that movie.
It's
What a
brilliant.
great film! What a great film!
Yeah.
I loved it. I don't care if you didn't like it. Don't email me. Don't at me. Just leave me alone.
Go on with your life and leave us all alone.
Yeah, I don't want to
Listen,
hear about
You're
it.
mad about it.
You can scroll on. Just be done.
Yeah.
Yes,
Um
it's so good though.
such a good movie. But moving to Rec Conversations, I think one of my favorite was Wicked and plus the Divine because I love that comic
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
Oh,
so
yeah.
much. But I'd also just like to say one of my favorite guests. I mean, I love all of our guests, but one of my favorite guests is Jesse Letourneau.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's great.
And
Every-
he just always is so thoughtful and has really a lot to bring to an episode. And to Rec Conversations, just like when he pulls the cord, some of the questions that he asked, I would be like, holy cow.
I have to remember every time that we've had him as a guest that like this man is a theologian and he's going to
Yeah.
ask some questions,
Yep.
not necessarily about the comic, but about life, the
Right.
universe, and the inner workings of the mind and all this other. And I'm like, bro, like this,
Yeah.
it's just.
Meanwhile, I'm the guest that talks about Smurfs.
That's all right.
It's
We
okay.
gave you Smurf content.
Yeah.
You said Smurf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, Jesse, I straight up asked a couple of times in the last episode with him why God allows suffering.
And
Yeah.
he will answer you.
Yeah. He'll
Yeah, and then he started, and I was like, oh shit.
you sir have made a tactical error.
You fucked up. You fucked up.
But I think that both shows have really further illuminated for me the people that we have in our lives are really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I've even gotten to experience and meet people. Like, I did not know Jesse or Ryan Ike that well. Michael Stout Garrity, or
Oh, Patrick, yeah.
Patrick Stout Garrity was recently on an episode, and haven't spent a lot of time with him outside of like years of LARP where we just knew. Yeah.
He's one of my fake husbands, so
Well, there you go.
We're pretty close.
But even people that I have known, we just had Tony Van Dyke, who is a coworker that I've known for years, but we did Red Sun with him, and some of his insights and just getting to joke around with him was great.
Yeah, for sure.
Jason Taylor probably is our most our most frequent guest. He's he's going to be the SNL jacket of Graphically Novel Productions, but I mean, again, does
research.
Allison, his fiance, always does research coming into a lot of these. Troy Espen, who comes with
pages of
notes,
9 pages of notes.
Probably, arguably the most well-researched guest we've had on the show.
Right. Yeah. But people with just tons of intrinsic knowledge anyway. Like, that was David Harnwell with V for Vendetta. He knows that comic front and back, and that movie front and back.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was able to bring in a bunch of insights. Anyway, if we did name you here, it's not because you were not
because
this
like I said, every single guest that we have had on this show has brought some magic to the episode that we couldn't possibly manufacture between the four.
Well, and I'm still getting Dalibor just sent me a message yesterday saying, if you haven't watched the new season of Warrior Nun, you need to, because it gets even more ridiculous.
Oh boy.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, this furthered my appreciation. Like, I was reading graphic novels and reading comic books, but I wasn't paying attention to what was coming out week to week. I was waiting on recommendations. This has really rekindled my love for a lot of like graphic novels and things that are going on. I probably have like 3 or 4 ongoing series that I will actively follow and then go and pick up graphic novels for, just because I really, really enjoy them. But yeah, and I probably have a conversation every other day with somebody who now reaches out to me. And I have that, Justin Stacy and I probably talk several times a week about new comic book properties, or, hey, did you see this? Or, you got to check this out. And it kind of really stemmed from having him on. He's been here, and I hadn't seen him since college.
Yeah.
And we have built entire relationships that really were just kind of like, oh, hey, you want to come be on this dumb podcast?
Well, even current guest Royal. I mean, we live very, very far apart, and we don't get to see each other very often as a result. And
we don't, which sucks.
It does suck.
We got to see Baby Hudson before this show.
It is such a pleasure always to see you and to hear from you, and then getting to meet your last time we had you as a guest, Hudson had not been born yet.
No,
so I was very excited to meet him, and I finally got to meet him through Zoom today, which was just really heartwarming. I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it. But it's just it's been such a pleasure, having you not once but twice, Royal. So thank you so much for joining us on this adventure.
Well, thank you so much. It really is. It's such a pleasure, and it's just so insightful. You guys have so much knowledge about the material.
We try.
We don't think it really, really well. And now the guy who none of this would have happened if my wife had not gone to one of my very best friends and said, will you just get him doing this fucking thing so he's doing something?
We walked out of the hotel room that morning, and we were at the food truck thing.
Yeah, Des Moines.
And I had thrown out my back, and I had been having back spasms all weekend, walking around Des Moines, trying to drink my back spasms away, because there was no way I was going to get muscle relaxers. And we were driving there, and you were just like, so Josh really wants to do this podcast.
And I was in school at the time, and I'm like, I do not have the time to do this at all. Could you please?
And you're like, would you just want? And I was just like, Jen, nobody wants to hear me talk about. Nobody wants to hear me critique shit.
And I was like,
and it turns out I was right.
You'd be surprised.
But yeah, that's basically where it all started. We were driving off to meet Jason and Allison, who were already at breakfast, and we're just like, well, actually, we were just about to leave, but we'll hang out if you're going to show up.
Yep.
So that was how this whole thing got started. Because originally, I was going to be the stupid fool that was editing, spending these hours and hours editing all these episodes, and kind of glad it turned out the other way.
Yeah, I've learned some shit.
But the memories, you want to talk about just the stuff that we've done. I was going back and just kind of flipping through episodes, like especially from season 1 and season 2, because it's been so long since we talked about any of that stuff. And so one of the episodes that I point out to, and I apologize to the people that I was just like, yeah, if you want to hear me, like air my dirty laundry on air for the world, you should go listen to the Runaways episode.
Oh my god, yes, because that was all
audio
about
on that
parents.
is such garbage. I apologize, Chris.
Yeah,
but we also said some things that I don't know if you remember or not. Like how you were talking about how the MCU had painted itself into a corner at the end of Endgame. And that was probably just going to be the end of it, and that they weren't going to move on from there. And I was just like, oh, well.
I still feel that way a little bit about some of the movies, but I stand very corrected on all of the TV series.
All of the TV series. That was actually where I think the first time I voiced my opinion that like the tie-in cameos were super important for me in maintaining the extended universe. We talked about Matt Murdock coming in to defend like Cloak getting arrested from Cloak and Dagger.
Yep.
And it was just like, yeah, it would be really cool if just like Matt Murdock came in and it was just like, hi, I'm your lawyer. And it wouldn't even have to be the same actor. It could just be Matt Murdock. They just got to say it's his, hi, my name is Matt Murdock. As far as shows go, there were so many things that like actually probably had almost better memories watching some of this shit together than actually talking about
Tales
it.
from the Crypt for sure.
Tales from the Crypt, oh my god. Legion and Happy. Swamp Thing, how we started off loving the series and then how we turned into loving to hate the series.
That series, the directors for that series, I'm going to guess that it was directed by Eli.
Started off amazing and then
took
we
something
sent it
that I
straight to
loved
the
so
toilet.
much. Yeah.
The wonderful things like introducing Jenn to things that I'm sure she regrets, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well, I mean, I knew it existed. I just chose not to watch it.
I remember when we were sitting here watching it in your living room and you were like, no, please, no. All right, I'm leaving. I'm just leaving.
Yeah, and I like crap things, so I don't know why I didn't, enjoy that more.
I mean, if it helps any, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were kind of my gateway drug to reading like non-Archie comics, right? Like, because I started out on Archie comics, and then I don't remember exactly how I found Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that. So that was like my gateway drug to reading like big girl comics, I guess. So I have an abiding love for them, but I do also respect that they are deeply weird and probably didn't age well. Haven't gone back to check it out. Don't really want to be quite honest.
Well, it was also wasn't. I was too old for them when they came out originally.
Sure,
so I have zero nostalgia.
Sure, yeah.
And
I was an
all
actual
of
child.
all of you who love them, it's all nostalgia.
Oh yeah.
And so
1000%.
Yeah. So there's no way to get that back. Yeah. Or get that if you never had it, I should say, not get it back.
But there were so many, just like the memories I have about just some of the weird shit that I had no idea was a comic book. Like Happy. Legion, I kind of peripherally knew was X-Men.
Atomic Blonde,
Tank Girl, Old Boy. For the love of God, Old Boy.
My God.
And going to
Remember
that episode,
Old Boy?
we did watch both versions
And
then read
that-
the manga.
Oh.
And surprisingly, such a different story in all three mediums.
And I loved
Right?
them all.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But still fucking weird.
Yeah.
Warrior Nun, which got re-upped for another season. Don't know how, don't know why, but I'm just going to enjoy it and be done with
it
it.
apparently is amazing.
Right? The Spirit.
Yeah.
It took me so long to convince you to like years. I tried to convince you to watch The Spirit, and then suddenly we're doing this comic book podcast. I'm like, Josh, The Spirit was a comic book.
This is a Eisner comic.
And I have this written in my notes, and I can't believe that at this point in my life now I can say this. Winona Earp, which I feel might be a Jonah Hex replacement.
Yeah.
And I would have never had the wherewithal 3 years ago when we started this shit to make that statement, and now I'm just like, almost like a connoisseur. Like, do we think that maybe Winona Earp is a replacement for Jonah Hex?
Winona Earp is still a show that every once in a while we'll be flipping through and I'll be like, I'll just put on an episode of Winona Earp because we haven't finished it, but we're very slowly are like, oh, fuck it, it's Winona Earp time.
Yeah.
And we'll do 1 or 2 episodes and then be like, okay, well, we'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah. Again, it's something, it's not really good.
No, it's like
really
supernatural levels,
Yeah.
or like we said on the episode, it's Midnight Texas.
Right. It's enjoyable because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take itself too seriously.
No, not even close.
I do love the actress that plays Winona Earp.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I love most of the actors
Yeah.
that are in Winona Earp.
I'd have to say though, I think my favorite memory overall from just the whole run was the mass of people that we had sitting here to watch the Snyder Cut.
Yes.
And me sitting pretty much in this exact same chair in this exact same place, though you had the TV in a different location, and going, fuck, when is it gonna end? And then Troy from fucking left field going, hey, don't forget, we still haven't seen the Joker yet, and me going, fuck!
Can confirm that conversation happened.
Yeah,
more than one time that night.
In fact, one regret that I have is not recording like a riff tracks of us watching the fucking Snyder Cut, because it was a thing.
Oof. I mean, I watched the first 2 hours of Batman versus Superman and then left and didn't feel like I missed anything. Like I didn't even finish the film,
fair.
but I finished the film.
The film finished me. In Soviet DC, film finishes you.
It did. I like stood up, like just kind of, brushed my hands together and I was like, well, I'm out of here.
Time to hit the dusty trail.
We're done here.
I've seen all I need to see. Good day to you.
Right.
I said good day.
It's hard to say, like, favorite episodes. We had episodes.
Yeah.
I loved just about every episode that I sat in for. I think actually pretty much every episode I sat in for Retcon. I mean, it was really enjoyable to be like sitting there like with me and Luke when we did World War Hulk
For the second time.
I had to love to hate All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
Because but it's just so hard. Like we had so many episodes that were if we loved it, we had a good episode. Or if we hated it, we had a good episode. Like Dark Phoenix is still actually one of my like higher up favorite episodes, just because I just got to rant about how much I hated Dark Phoenix.
I feel like the ones that we hated, those were the longer episodes, it seems
Or
like.
if we loved them, or if they were just weird. Because I think what's our longest episode? I think is From Hell, isn't it? It was over 2 hours with Wheeze.
It's definitely our longest comic.
We didn't even get through. What did we get through? Like 6 of them or something like that. We were just like, listen, we're done. But one of my favorites, because I got to sit and jaw-jack about.
Justice League was our longest episode at 2 hours.
Okay.
Batman was next. From Hell was actually only an hour and a half.
Was it only an hour and a half?
Spawn was an
2
hour
hours.
42.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Glass, Wonder Woman. Yeah.
But yeah, I have real toss-up between like, From Hell, Dark Phoenix, Howard the Duck. It was just hilarious.
Watching Howard the Duck in 2020 draw there.
Oh God, I used to love that movie when I
Right.
was a kid. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but that was
Right.
I thought that movie was great when I was a kid, And I have zero interest in going back and watching it as an adult because I think I would like to peel off my own skin.
Do you remember how many duck boobs there are in that movie?
Oh God, no, I don't. Oh no.
Leia, just stop. Don't think about it. Don't think about it.
There's at least 3.
There's got to be 57 tits up there.
Only saw
I wore out a
Steve
VHS
Martin call back there.
Yeah, love Steve
Little
Martin.
Steve Martin call back there for the youngins.
That's right. I was there with you.
I don't know. It's really
Thank
hard
you,
to
Royal.
pick a favorite episode.
But no, Howard the Duck. I wore out a VHS of that when I was a kid, and I went back and watched it a couple of years ago, and it does not hold.
No, not at all.
No. And I don't know why I was allowed to watch that while I was a child.
Right?
Oh, there's a bunch of shit that we all watched as kids that as adults were like, man, it was honestly a different time.
Howard works in a brothel.
In my defense, I was unsupervised.
Yeah, but I feel like even as a kid, that was a weirdly horny movie, and I remember being aware that was a weirdly horny movie. And now, again, as an adult, I don't really want to go back and see exactly how horny of a movie it was. You feel me?
Yes, I do, because I watched Porky's with my parents.
Oh God, I've done that. That is awkward as fuck.
Although not as awkward as watching Girl with a Dragon Tattoo with my father.
Oh,
I was watching Stripes, I think, with my uncle at one point in time, and I just remember him going, "Oh well, too late now."
I watched Taxi Cab Confessions with your father.
That was amazing.
At one point in time, I recall, so my mom and I used to, since I was old enough to remember, really, my mom and I used to watch like horror movies together, right? Because I was really into horror. My mom is really into horror. She's the one who ostensibly got me into horror by osmosis. And so we would, make it a blockbuster night, go rent horror movies, whatever, go to Family Video, whatnot.
Wow, what a difference.
And we rented a movie starring Alyssa Milano called, I believe, Kiss of the Vampire.
Kiss of the Vampire, where you see her boobies.
Oh my.
I was about 11, I want to say. Like, I might have been slightly older, but not somewhere in the like tween age. And it was unrated, and I didn't think anything of it. And I sat down to watch this movie with my mother, and it was uncomfortable. For people who have not seen it at home, Kiss of the Vampire, the plot basically revolves around Alyssa Milano needs to lose her virginity, or a vampire will bite her because she has virgin blood. So she has to go out and bone, or the vampire that's like stalking her will eat her, or whatever. Not an appropriate movie to watch as a tween. Not an appropriate movie to watch as a tween with your mother.
Yeah, it's the last 10 minutes of the Jim Carrey movie Once Bitten, but not a comedy, and stretched over an hour and 45 minutes.
It's so bad.
Youch.
Any other?
I mean, how do you sum up?
Oh, no, I mean,
How do you sum up 3
and we will
years
keep
worth?
adding. Like I said, there are episodes that we'll still do. It's just we will not plan them ahead of time.
Yes.
Or have a release schedule.
I mean, there's still like my favorite line ever, which is, me stopping the whole podcast and going, wait a minute, why isn't Black Bolt black? And Leia yelling at me from the other side of the microphone.
You can't
ask people why they're not black. You can't ask people why they're not black.
Oh.
Good
And I just remember like sitting there in the back of my head going, but if they're white, I can.
They are the Moonanites. Their leap is beyond all virtual measurement. Oh, well, on that note, until we meet again, everyone, we will be releasing the last Graphically Novel episode, but it was recorded before this next week, and that will be Resident Alien with Rojir and Megan McCready.
Watch that show.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that'll be fun times.
Yeah.
And watch the show, because really there's Alan Tudyk at his Alan Tudykinness. That show, as we will talk about, does not work without Alan Tudyk in the main role.
Yes.
No, sure doesn't.
Nope, not at all. But until then, and for the last time, take it away, Vandello.
do 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 the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, or can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems.
Nothing's ever as it seems.
Do 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 or hated by millions. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but you don't want to see